Here we are, we're on to bag C, and the first part of C is padding out the battery tray. You get a lot of foam, but I'm not going to use any of it because first of all I painted up the rocker covers red and silver just for a bit of contrast, but the battery is a perfect fit, doesn't need nothing. I think that's pretty good. If I change over to LiPo in the future, then it's just a case of swapping out. It's not a big thing, so nice and easy. But that's it for 17. I'm not putting any foam in, so it's done is done. Part 18 is setting the radio up, and you've got this specialist gear for the steering, a washer and a suitable screw, so you have to pick what one suits. I'm using the longest screw, of course, because of going into a metal top servo. You've got to really make sure this is central. It's very important on this because being a rack companion style steering, well, it uses a cog. It's a lot different to normal sort of steering setups. So let's get the power on. I've already checked it over, and after a long time found out I had a glitching servo, and it wasn't a glitching servo, it was me. I had the gyro turned on, so every time I moved the wire, it was moving the receiver and of course glitching the servo. So don't do silly things like that, like I've just done. Now this part needs to face upwards with the servo to the right, so get it as straight as you can and push it on. Oh, this is a bad one. Oh no, that's as near as I can get it. Let's see if that'll go on. There we go. That's pretty good. You can see it's almost right, correct. So let's straighten. I've completely centered it, so if you look, it's dead centered, so I'm happy with that. Put on the servo saver ring. Why don't that want to go on? That is tight. Don't know if they've changed the plastic, but they're not normally this hard to get on. There we go. Then the gear goes on, and if you've got it right, the teeth should be pointing to the bottom. Like so. And then you've got to get the screw in to the servo. I'm using a very small amount of thread lock because it's into metal. I like a little bit extra, but don't go mad because it can rot the plastic. But to get this in, not the easiest. There we go, we've done it. A good tweak, and it should be not bad at all. But that completes step 18. Now part 19, we've got to mount the servo, and it shows the servo brackets to the top of the servo. They go on with nuts and bolts. A bit of pad onto a C7. We're going to put a post in. I'm not putting the aerial in because I'm not decided what I'm doing with that. and we've got the receiver to go in. So let's get these parts on first. It shows through the lower hole, and mount them on. And they face backwards, I think. Yeah. So we'll get these on. Yeah, I might be running into an issue, I've got a funny feeling. Because I'm using a short servo, and I don't know whether it's suitable. I'm going to be in truth. So we need on my washer sheet. Yeah, these are quite different to sort of any other sort of the way the servo goes on, where you're putting a nut behind, because normally we screw straight into a solid block. So there we go, we're flush with the top, so we can tighten it. Yeah, these are definitely a bit more fiddly than normal. Get it to the top again. Okay, now I'm going to put the servo in place and see what it looks like. We've got an issue. It's sitting crooked, it's catching on the bulkhead a little. So I'm going to try trimming just the servo case a little bit. See if I can get enough off. If it's just a small amount, because it's got to sit dead straight, so I might have to also trim the casing. But if I take a little bit off this first, I'd rather take a chance on the case, so just a small amount. The trouble is I can't get to it. I'll just whiz this off for a second. Now I can trim a bit more. I might have it, that might have worked. Yeah, I didn't think of it, the servo could have a bit of casing in the way. Let's try that. No, that is not good, it's sitting crooked. Oh well, back in a sec. I'm not going to trim this on camera. With a little bit of trimming, we have now got it perfectly straight. I'm happy with that. So now we've got to put a bit of tape cut to size on top of this bracket. Like so, and it says you've got to grease all around here on the thing, on top of this plate. It's probably to keep dust out, and you've also got to grease round this tube. Have I got my greasing brush? There we go. All the way around. So that is coated. That drops it in now. And this plate goes over the top somehow. There we go. And then it's with 2 screws into the chassis to finish off that part. There's movement, so it's not solid at the moment. I think what holds it in place is when you put put in the next part. And the other thing to do is, because we're using less parts, we've got to fit this post for the battery cover. And you've got to screw it so it faces, the hole has got to go through a certain way, the orientation. And for a pin, it's got to go across the chassis. There we go. And that concludes part 19. Part 20 is mounting the ESC bracket, and you've got to put a bit of tape on the servo to hold it in place, so you actually stick the servo in. So what I'm going to do is fit the plate with the servo, because where this is loose, I want it as central as possible when I put it on, you know, keep it square. So we're going to put a bit of tape on. Like it tells you to. I wish they'd have gone more for posts where you screw them in. I think that would have been a bit of design. We got it in place. Yeah, my tape's in the wrong place. It's too big. We'll change that. Better to do it now. So I'm going to do it slightly different. We'll do it longer but lower. There we go. Peel the backing off. Got it roughly in place. And that should be it. Yeah, it's a weird way of mounting the servo, because they could add 2 countersunk screws from below. Doing the same thing. But I just hope I've got it dead straight. Looks pretty good. Yeah, it doesn't move now. See, the thing is, you don't want it off because of it's wearing. But that's how it needs to be done. And then next we've got to sort out the ESC and the receiver. The receiver can sit in that little hole there. The aerial, I don't know what I'm doing with yet. I haven't made a decision. Because it's not long, so it would never reach there across the battery and up anyway. It would be pointless. So we'll see what we can make for that. Even if I spun it, you've still always got the interference of the battery, trying to get the battery in. So I'm going to run it more forwards and we'll go from there. There we go. Don't need such a long aerial really, servo wire, did we? And because of connections of reaching the motor, I'm going to fit that back as far as possible. Yeah, it'll have to go there. I don't want it quite there. Over a bit. So this is trial and error because I've got to try and do something with the switch and move it. See, that's not working for me either. Try that. Because I'm hoping to see if I can print a bracket to screw it into place in the correct, so it goes in the normal position, hopefully. And then I can turn it on and off from underneath. Yeah, that would be pretty good. But that sort of concludes this part. I can't tidy up the electrics, so I've got that sorted. Now I sorted out the on-off switch. I've done an adaptation and it seems to be a bit tight because it's actually bulging. I hope it don't damage the switch, but we'll see. Yeah, that is a surprise. So I'm happy with that. Now we're starting on part 21, which is the rack companion steering. Now it says you've got to make up 2 of these. And you've got to watch direction. It seems to be, it shows the slant there, that is on the gator, is that one there. It points upwards because that is the underneath of the car. That is the underneath where the gear is. So we know that. But the thing is, we've got to get the rubber boot onto there on a set length distance. We've got to put a metal ring in, and we got to put it all together and grease it. So it's not an easy job, I can tell you that. So I've already got an open pot of anti-wear grease, so that one can go away. I like to rotate. And I need my greasing brush cleaned up, because that's covered in muck where we used it. But I don't need that anti-wear quite yet. But I'm going to have to do all the other greasing first. But I just want to sort of clean up the brush just in case. Take off any contamination, and there was. That's where it's been lying around when I've been using grease. Now let's get on to the build. What I've done is I've set my calipers to fit the link absolutely perfectly. So it's all been wound on one end. So I've got the advantage. I've only got to take it off one end and wind it in that end, so it keeps it even. Now the next thing is I've got to put that wire in, and I don't know whether see, this is the thing, is do you put the wire in first or afterwards, because it's got to be popped in like so. Can you see that? It's got to be popped inside, and definitely I think do it now. Can you see that? You can see, just about see the wire. So we do the other one the same, and it does go in a certain way, these do. And I've got them sitting in the groove, so that's part done. Now what I'm going to do is put a little bit of grease on the thread, because we've got to get this through the gaiter now, and I don't know how good the hole is. Not very good. Let's see if I can open it up a bit. It's definitely a hole there, but it's really tight. There we go. That little bit of grease helped. So we can push it all the way up. Now we can put the end back on. But the thing is, it's like, how you're supposed to do it with the ringing and everything, and that's why I decided to do it this way. Now I can put the pliers on and wind it, hold it and wind it all the way until the calipers fit. And because it's been pre-run, it is so easy now. There we go. And I've not bent the metal at all, but that's what you've got to try and do. And now the orientation of the ball joint is like that, where you've got the angle. It's to the ball ends being flat. So I'm not going to bore you with doing that twice, because that is quite a handful. But back in a sec. Now the next part is to wind in the two balls and then clip it onto the rack. And if you look, there's two slots, but on the other side there is a rack. So we know we have to put them in from the rack side. One. And now where we pop on the ball ends, we've got to make sure we get these correct. Make sure it's flat, and it goes upwards. It looks totally wrong to what I'm looking at, because it would say in your mind the other way up, but we'll give it a go. So I've definitely got it right, the angle and everything. So we'll pop this on. Not easy to do. You can see me checking and double checking. I don't want to get this wrong, but I'm sure it'll be all okay in the end. There we go, we got it correct to what it shows. The wires come out already. Because that says to me wrong. I don't know why, but that's, see what I'm coming from. Just doesn't look right. So now we've got it exactly as it shows. So what we'll do now is I'm going to do a test fit. I don't think it hurts, because when you fit this, you line up the centre. There's a centre line and a centre line, so we know it goes there. And then you've got to pull the gate. Then you've got to pull it off the gaiter. That's why it don't look right. So in one picture it shows you right up to the gaiter, and in another one it doesn't. So we line up till it sits central and in the slot. And we'll do the same the other side. I don't know if you can see that. See, there's a centre line, and you've got to line them up on. I know it's jumped one, but that's how it's all got to sit together. So it is correct now. Well, I'm saying that it looks wrong to me. But no, it does say flat to the bottom. And now the next thing we've got to do is grease it and get all this together and get the clamp over. And we've got to put anti-wear grease on that, which, like I said, we'll do last. So let's go with the grease first. And it says we've got to grease all around here, where the cover fits over. So the cover is going to fit like that. And we've got 4 screws. Just going to put just a tiny amount of wax. And when you fit this, don't over tighten them, because this is a soft plastic. It's not like the steering rack, which is harder. Right, so let's grease this up. Because I don't see how greasing completely round makes too much. It just seals it from dirt. but because I don't want to go too mad, because I don't want it in that groove where we're going to put the anti-wear grease, which is going to help stick it in place. So we've done that. I'm just going to finish off what's on the brush in there. Just a bit more. Right, that's well greased. So it should slide with ease. You know, it's the thing. Now we'll shift to the anti-wear grease. And this is where it's going to get messy, because we've got to go all the way around here. That's one side done. And when we fit this cover, we cannot afford the it to be off by one gear, because everything's centralised, it's all linked to the steering. You'll never ever get it to set up. Right, we glued it all up, and it's flats to the bottom. We've got to line it in the middle. That's not going to go on, because what the problem we've got now is there's too much rubber. Possibly it might work, I'll give it a go, but I'm going to over push these in. It's central in the middle. I'm going to put a little bit of grease across there in case it does touch, and then we're going to sort of line up each side and push. Oh, I didn't want to do that. Hopefully I haven't knocked it out of a line. And now we can fit these screws. But I have to admit, this is a complex steering system. But wind the screw until it just about stops, and no more. And hopefully there's no resistance, because you can't afford to, because it'll burn out the servo. Though the servo is way more powerful than this chassis was ever designed to use. You know, it's quite a high powered servo, that one. There we go, they're wound in. Let's test it before we end this section. Just seeing if it's in fully. It's not coming out. I'll say that's it. So we've seemed to have won. And that does complete part 21. Now part 22 is fitting on the gearbox. There's 4 screws from the side and 2 that go down. So I'm going to put the gearbox in place, fit those 2 screws, and then we'll assemble and screw on the fake exhaust. So the gearbox should slot upwards with these. Yep, there we go, it's in place. We'll drop the screw in. I put it in the wrong hole. Yeah, what I done was I put it in that hole and it's got to go in that hole. There we go, that's better. That's basically it's secured on this way. That's really good. Now the next hole is here, each side. And I think it's best to fit these 4 first. I'm done with it. Nice and easy that way. There we go. So we take the exhaust pipe and the tip and they just push together. That's what it tells you to do. Ah. Plonker, wrong way. Thought that was tight. Yeah, if you put them the wrong way they don't go on. And then how do they go on next? It says just screw them onto that hole. I think that's the wrong hole. That don't make sense. If you look, let's see, it says, oh, there's another hole further back. This is the trouble working with a bit dull today outside and even with the light on. That's why it won't go correct. That's better. And that completes part 22. Yeah, because what it is, on the other side there's an extra hole. I don't know what that's for. Now part 23, we're finishing off now, and what you've got to do is you've got to put some anti-wear grease on the end of the drive shaft, put the gearbox into place, and then screw them on with the uprights for the suspension. So I've got it all laid out. So we'll do the anti-wear grease first. Put some on, not a huge amount. Just enough to coat it. And then we'll put the gearbox on. Try and line it up. Yep, we're in, and drop down. There we go. Tempted to put a little hole in that and put a clip to hold that down, or maybe just another E. Bit worried about wires and touching. So now the theory is we should be able to just go straight in. Remember to pick the right side because it faces forwards. These do. There we go, this one in. And this side should be just that little bit easier. Oh, I think the reason why it's a bit hard to push down, because remember we put a piece of foam, didn't we, on top of the steering. So that has to be compressed a little bit, the screws to go in. Takes a little bit of lining up, but once they pop. And there we go, we actually have completed bag C. Next on to D, in the next video though.